Hello, everybody. Welcome to those who have joined. We're going to wait a few more minutes just to give folks a chance to log in. So thank you for your patience.
Buenas tardes a todos los que ya ingresaron. Vamos a dar unos cuantos minutos para los que aún no ingresan, entonces gracias por su paciencia. And Liz, really quick, interpretation's not on yet. I don't know if you want to just add it so they can follow the instructions.
Okay, Amy, have you started the interpretation yet?
I just did. Now Tanya should be out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just welcome everybody again. I see a few more folks have joined. We are waiting a few more minutes before we get started. I see we're missing some folks, so.
Y veo que ya tenemos bastantes personas. Vamos a darles la bienvenida nuevamente, pero vamos a esperar unos cuantos minutos más para que ingresen más personas porque todavía nos hacen falta algunas más.
Well, maybe we can get started with our housekeeping slides as folks continue to sign in. So we'll just start with our interpretation instructions. And I believe I will pass it to Tanya from Linguística to share how to get into your interpretation channel.
Thank you, Liz. Buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos nuevamente a su reunión. Como siempre, queremos recordarles que tenemos la interpretación simultánea ya lista para ustedes. Si ustedes desean escuchar la junta en español e ingresaron con una computadora, van a ver el icono de un mundo en la parte de abajo de su menú de Zoom. Por favor, seleccionen ese icono y seleccionen el canal de español. También pueden silenciar el audio original para que nada más escuchen la voz del intérprete. Si ustedes ingresaron utilizando un teléfono móvil o una tableta, sus opciones se van a ver un poco diferentes. Necesitan tocar su pantalla y deslizar el menú, ya sea en la parte de arriba o de abajo de su dispositivo. Seleccionen esos tres puntitos donde dice más o more. Seleccionen interpretación de idioma. Después seleccionen español. Nuevamente silenciar el audio original y por último el botón que diga done, listo o finalizado. Si necesitan ayuda, pueden dejarnos saber en el chat. Y ahora voy a dar esas mismas instrucciones, pero en inglés. Hello, everyone. Welcome to your meeting. This is just a friendly reminder that we, as usual, have a Spanish interpretation available for this meeting. So if you're a monolingual English speaker, we do ask you to please select the English channel. That way you can hear any communication from Spanish directly into English. If you're joining with a computer, you'll see a glove at the bottom of your Zoom menu. Please select the glove and select English. If you're joining with a cell phone or a tablet, your options will look a little bit different. You need to tap your screen and find the menu with the three dots, either on top or at the bottom of your screen. Select language interpretation, select English, and then select done. If you need any help, please let us know in the chat. Thank you very much. And I can be added to the channel now, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. This is Liz. So we'll just wait one moment while we add Tanya to the channel, and Amy and Tanya give me a thumbs up when we are ready. Okay. I see a thumbs up, so our interpretation is on. You should now be able to select your channel, but please do let us know if you're having any issues. Continuing to move through our introduction slides, we have our naming conventions. And this is a reminder for our CSC members and residents to add the acronym CSC, or R if you are a resident, to your Zoom name. And this helps us with our stipend distribution and attendance tracking. For all other folks who are joining our meeting tonight, please put your agency name in your Zoom name as well for our attendance. And if you are joining as a member of the public, we would also ask that you put the letter P in front of your name. And this helps us facilitate the meeting to give priority to our CSE members. On this slide, we have our virtual meeting etiquette. We ask for folks to stay muted unless you are speaking. And if you are calling in on the phone, you can press *6. We also ask for folks to raise your Zoom hand if you have a question or comment. And again, if you are on the phone, you can do that by pressing *9. And then we just have our usual reminder for residents in the stipend program to stay on for at least 75% of our meeting tonight, which is around 90 minutes. Here we have a review of our group agreements. We do usually take the time to read through these at the beginning of all of our meetings. In the interest of time, I won't read through all of them tonight, but do know that we're always keeping these in mind and uphold these norms as we facilitate your meeting. Here is the agenda for tonight. We have our normal welcome and introductions. Then we'll have our usual action item tracker review. And then you'll see we're spending most of our time tonight on the SERP incentive measure strategic planning agenda item. Then we have some standing updates, and then we'll move to our next steps and agenda setting before we wrap up with final public comment. And so I'll stop sharing my screen for a moment and just want to welcome everybody once more to our 69th South Fresno Community Steering Committee meeting. Tonight, we have I think, really great agenda with plenty of time for discussion, and we're really looking forward to hearing some of your thoughts. At this time, I am happy to invite Ryan from the Air District to share any opening remarks to get us started for the evening.
Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well, and I'm happy to be here tonight with all of you. And I think we have a really good and packed agenda tonight, and really want to. It's really forward-looking, and as we're coming to the conclusion of 5 years on working on implementing the SERP and wanting to get some strategic direction and guidance from all of you on some very important topics and issues. And yeah, so just excited to have the conversation, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Ryan. And this is Liz again. So at this time, I am happy to keep us moving through the agenda to our action item tracker follow-up. So we, again, take this time at every meeting to ensure that the CSE is able to stay up to date on all of the progress that is being made towards your suggestions, recommendations. And as usual, as Nancy walks us through that action item tracker, feel free to ask any questions in the chat or raise your Zoom hand, and we will be sure to take note of anything that can't be answered tonight so that we can come back to it at another time. And at this time, I'll pass it to Nancy to walk us through.
Thank you, Liz. This is Nancy. I'm going to be sharing my screen, and we are going to be going over the action items from the previous CSC meeting. Can everybody see that? Okay, thank you. All right, so as usual, the action items, this is a routine check-in on some of the actions that have come out of previous meetings, particularly focused on previous meetings. And so for this round, we have 3 action items, and I'll be going through them section by section. So the first one is going to be from the completed section. And this is action item 68.1. The city will convey CSC concerns to the city council when presenting the final truck reroute study. And so the outcome for this was during the September 12th city council meeting, City of Fresno shared CSC feedback with city council during the truck reroute study workshop. And if you do want to follow along, I did go ahead and drop this link in the chat just in case you have any curiosity, want to revisit any action items, or just want to follow along. So moving on to the next action item, we have 68.2. The city will provide a plan for how they will continue engaging the CSC as this project moves forward. And so this was in regards to the truck reroute study. And so the Air District to continue to work with the City of Fresno to share progress and updates on truck reroute study with the CSC. And of course, any information that the City of Fresno provides to us, such as dates or important meetings, we will make sure to share those with you all. All right, and then so our final action item comes from the comment noted. And so this is action item 68.3. The CSC reached consensus to not approve of the final truck reroute study in its current state. And so per the City of Fresno, after receiving comments from the CSC, businesses, and City Council, city staff will be postponing the City Council presentation and ordinance introduction to a later date. The City of Fresno will be sure to share that date. And so once that date is determined, we will go ahead and share all that information with you all. And I also did want to point out that we will have a City of Fresno representative that will be providing just an update during our sending updates section of the meeting. And so that concludes the action items for from the previous CSC meeting. And so I'm happy to take any questions, or if you want to drop any questions in the chat as well, we do look at those and we can answer any questions that you have. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and then just see if we have any questions. And if not, like I said, utilize the chat. We do look at it, and we want to ensure that your voices are heard.
Thank you, Nancy. This is Liz. I'm not seeing anything in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised. So if there are no questions coming up for folks, maybe we can transition to our next agenda item. Okay, well, thank you. So yes, happy to transition us to our main agenda item, the big discussion for tonight. As you all know, we're approaching the 5th year of the South Fresno SERP. And as Ryan mentioned earlier, it's time to start laying that framework for some strategic planning discussions that'll help facilitate a smooth transition to really sustain the momentum that you all have built and keep this engagement going with you all in the South Fresno community. So the purpose of tonight's discussion is for the Air District to start that framework by sharing a comprehensive update on the status specifically for the SERP incentive measures. So we want to note that discussion of those non-incentive SERP measures will come at a later meeting. We also want to mention and make it clear that we are not asking anyone to make any decisions in tonight's meeting. So tonight we have plenty of time for you to hear these updates and really be sure to get all of your questions answered before we come to any decisions in future meetings. And so at this time, I'm happy to pass it to Ryan to walk us through that presentation.
All right, great. Thanks so much. I'm going to attempt to share this. Seems like it's always the first time for me, so always bear with me. Get to the first slide. And share. All right. So can everybody see that now?
Yes.
All right, great. So as we were talking about, we wanted to take this opportunity and kind of starting with the incentive measures, talk about where we are currently in regards to the ongoing progress that we've seen. I think the first talk a lot about the successes that we've had working together and getting emission reductions within the community. But then so in February, we're going to hit 5 years of implementation. And so in the state statute, the legal language, that was kind of the time period where it was looking to transition communities. Hopefully it was intended to be that we'd finished everything and that it was going to be a celebration of that. While we've made significant progress, there's still a lot of outstanding measures, and we know that. And so we want to continue to work with the CSC moving forward. But at the same time, we want to have a strategic plan on how we go about doing that. And so what we want to do here is just lay the foundation of what that may look like and get your feedback on that and your thoughts and opinions. So let me go to the next slide and just kind of go over what we're seeing in terms of the successes that we were talking about. And so when we adopted the community emissions reduction program, there were certain if we fully implement measures, there were certain expectations on the emission reductions that we thought we would see. And so on the far left were the dollar commitments, and in the different categories. So you see ag and business, there was $19.175 million committed to measures in that category. There was $17.55 million committed to community and government measures. And then there was $8.1 million for residential measures. And all of this information has been shared with the steering committees, either in the meetings themselves or it's always updated in the progress tracker that's online that we've sent out in a lot of the updates to steering committee members regularly. This is all information that's in those with more specific details for each of the itemized measures for all of you to see. But in terms of emission reductions, that the commitments that we expected were where we thought we would be in terms of getting emission reductions, which is exciting. We're seeing the emission reductions coming down, from those measures. And so, with the commitments, we're expecting to see, roughly almost 1,600 tons of particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, and VOCs, specifically in the South Central community. So it's good and exciting news, and these are things that we're going to see, continue to increase the amount of emission reductions. So we want to talk about so we have certain measures in the community emission reduction program, and if you look at the tracker, there's discussion about measures that have been completed. And so we want to make sure that we come from a place of common understanding of what completed means. And so in terms of the community emissions reduction program, what a completed CERP measure means is that the funding has been spent, and so it's currently providing benefits to the community. So some examples of this are the trees that are being planted, the electric school buses or the diesel and natural gas school buses that have been replaced by electric, or that funding is contracted or obligated. So we have a contract in hand with someone to do something, and that there's commitments. And so those funds are committed. And so if that's the case, then there's no funding left in that measure. We're still considering that measure to be complete. So does anybody have any questions in regards to that? So some of the completed incentive measures, we have 6 that are here. Alternative fueling station, we have funding set aside for that. The heavy duty truck rerouting. Now, in terms of that, it's only the funding that we're talking about. So there's still some steps that need to happen with the heavy duty truck rerouting. We're not saying that it's completed in that terms. It's only that the funding has been spent for that. Heavy duty trucks, electric school buses, vegetated barriers, and urban greening. So while a lot of this is still ongoing, it's the funding itself has been committed, that the specific set aside of funding amounts that was in the community emission reduction program has all been either spent or contracted. So this is just kind of goes through the actual dollar amounts that were spent for those individual measures. And once again, this is the type of information that is in those the trackers that are online, that's available both in English and Spanish, and it includes all the emission reductions that are expected for all these individual measures. So a lot of funding commitments, a lot of funding that has been spent on the things that the steering committee prioritized. And thank you, Nancy, for dropping the link into the tracker. So we want to talk about, and what we're calling it is it's a transition for the 5th year. And what this really means is that we're really looking at, okay, we've made a lot of progress, but we want to take another year to do our very best to fully implement the measures that are in the South Central Fresno Community Emission Reductions Program. And so kind of once again, it's a 5-year plan was in the state statute. The South Central Community Emission Reduction Program was actually adopted by CARB in February of 2020, and we'll reach that 5 years of completion in this coming February. And so the goal of today is really to understand where we're at with the remaining measures and discuss the next steps for how to categorize each measure and prioritize outreach, and discuss potential reallocation to add funding to some of the community identified measures that have been successful and have been prioritized by the community steering committee. So we have here, we're going to categorize these in 4 different groups. And so category 1, the yellow group, is for measures with, we see a lot of interest and need, and we want to continue to fund these beyond February 25 with the remaining incentives allocations. And then what we would do is, with the goal and the objective of getting that spent, once again, by February 26th. That's our real target date for, getting that done. Category 2, we're going to continue, look to continue until funding is complete for the measures. So these are measures that there's funding available for them right now, and things are kind of going as expected. And so we're not at this time recommending to shift funding to these, but we want to continue to do everything that we can through outreach and education and to get that funding out for those measures. Category 3 is also it's for measures where we see evidence of interest and need, and we're looking to add funding from Category 2. And we're gonna move the funded measures to Category 1. And then I know some of this sounds confusing. Once we get into the individual slides, it'll make more sense, hopefully, versus the higher level overview that we have here. And then lastly, Category 4 is continue until funding is complete. So these ones, we think that February 25, we should, if things go correctly, we should be able to get that funding contracted, committed, and spent. Sorry, I'm working off my laptop and I'm having to move some screens around in order to be able to do the presentation. So if everybody bears with me a little bit. So once again, Category 1, these are the ones that we want to continue funding. We're seeing a lot of interest in them, or in some cases, there's been recent changes to state guidelines that will allow us some more flexibility to get some of this funding spent. For example, for heavy-duty diesel equipment, there was specific guidelines that made it very difficult and challenging to spend some of this funding. And so there's been some changes to that we think is going to allow us to spend some of that. So that's why we have the yard trucks and truck refrigeration units here, where we didn't see a lot of interest prior to that because of these challenges. There was because of the time frames, there was not as much that could be put towards the replacement of some of these pieces of equipment. And so with the changes, we'll be able to give an increased amount, which we believe will generate more interest. We also believe that the replace wood burning devices with the work that the steering committee did to increase the amount of funding. We're seeing some level of interest, and so we're going to continue to outreach that and hopefully work with all of you to get that funding spent. We're seeing tremendous interest in we're seeing interest in the residential vehicle repair. We don't think that there's going to be any challenges with doing in-person events, and plus the online option as well to spend that funding. Residential air filtration, we're seeing the funding get spent. If time permits, we have some slides that we can go over and kind of show where we're at with that and some of the challenges that we're having. And then alternatives to ag burning. We still think that that's another category that we're going to be able to spend that funding. So some of the measures where we're not seeing the level of interest, and we're considering reallocating these funds. And it's not through a lack of trying. So for example, under-fired charbroilers. When we first adopted the measure, we actually went out and visited every single restaurant that has an under-fired charbroiler, and shared with them information about this program that was specific to the community, tried to garner interest. And unfortunately, there's a lot of challenges with this. In a lot of instances, the buildings that the people are in, they don't own. And so getting them to put the control devices on those buildings isn't something that was really an option or that they were able to do. There was also issues with some of the structural integrity of buildings. The devices themselves are pretty heavy, And so there was some challenges that, people expressed concerns that they wouldn't be able to do it for safety or for, permitting reasons, things of that nature. So we're just not seeing a lot of interest. Public fleet vehicles, this is a measure that's been open since the very beginning, so for 5 years. And there was an initial $8 million that was allocated to this. We've since pulled $3 million out. We spent roughly about 500,000. But within the time periods that we're looking at, we just think that spending $4.5 million is going to be very challenging for that specific measure. Railcar movers and switchers, we did a lot of engagement with the businesses that operate in South Central Fresno that use these types of equipment. We were able to get a company to use that, but we're not seeing the interest from others. And so this is another one where we think that, given the timeframes, this is money that we could probably look to move to some other measures to get emission reductions. And the same locomotives, I'm sure everybody remembers, that was one where that was some of the very first feedback that we got from the steering committee was that line haul emissions, spending a lot of money in that didn't make sense because the majority of the emissions that would be reduced wouldn't happen specifically in the South Central Fresno community. And so we made a commitment to look to reallocate that funds. And so we have, over the time, we've shifted funding from that measure to things like vegetated barriers and urban greening. So that being said, we pointed out the measures that we weren't seeing interest, and so now we want to get into the measures where we think that there is interest and there's capacity to put money towards and see the funding being utilized quickly. And it's things that the community steering committee has prioritized in the past. And so one of the things that we would, in talking with Tree Fresno, what their current capacity and ability would be to possibly spend more funding. They've indicated that they do have capacity and that if they were to get under a contract, that they would be able to spend some more money. And so we were thinking that, putting the 1.2 million that was originally allocated to char broilers to this would be a good use of those funds, potentially. Another one, residential vehicle replacement. We just took an item to our board a few months ago to shift funding, $3 million from the public fleet over to this. With the amount that's still remaining, we think that there's still a possibility of shifting another $3 million. Within a month of opening it the first time, we saw roughly $1.6 million committed. So just huge interest by people living within the boundary for this measure, looking to get into cleaner vehicles, understanding the health benefits that are associated with it, and the other benefits that are associated with electric vehicles. And so I think there's just a lot of interest and desire for residents. And so this would be another one where we think that money would be able to be shifted and quickly spent. And then, as we went through this process of putting this presentation together, it was really kind of forcing us to think, okay, what are maybe some other things that could possibly be funded with some of these funds? We have a couple of things that we're looking at right now that we think we'll be able to get some emission reductions, but we're still quantifying that. And so we're hoping to bring back some recommendations on maybe some additional opportunities in the next meeting or two. And so category 4, these are measures where we think that the funding that's there now we can spend through February 2025. And I think it's a good dollar amount that has been allocated towards them, and we're seeing a lot of benefits from. And so these is residential lawn and garden equipment. These are those events where people turn in their old lawnmower and get a brand new electric one as a replacement. And these were the drive-through events that we've seen a lot of success doing those. Then there's also commercial lawn and garden equipment. These are the bigger pieces of equipment that things like cities, counties, school districts use for landscape maintenance, as well as private companies as well have the potential or could use that opportunity. And then the last one is school air filtration. So as we've talked about in previous meetings, all of the Fresno Unified school districts and the other outlying like central have either already taken advantage of the funding or they had already used other funding sources and so didn't need to take advantage of this funding. We're still engaging with the charter schools. This was something that several of the community steering committee members had asked us questions about. And so we're mindful of that. So we don't want to look to shift this money. We want to make sure that we've had full conversations with the charter schools to make sure that we understand what any needs they may have. And if there are needs, then there'll be funding there for that. And so how do we move forward? So today we're having the conversation about the incentives measures. What we were looking to do is then also come back and talk about non-incentive measures. And this is something that we've heard from the steering committee a lot in the past, is like we don't want to just focus solely on the incentive measures. We also want to fully understand where we're at with the other measures. And so we're looking to bring back and have a discussion about the non-incentive CERT measures, including compliance and enforcement and rule development and things of that nature next month. And then in December and January, kind of have a final CERP implementation review overall. And then in February 2025, we're looking to transition the Fresno, the CERP meetings beginning in February. And what we're looking to do is at that point, transition from monthly meetings to what we're looking would be maybe quarterly meetings. So doing 4 quarterly meetings next year. So I know that was a lot of information, and I'm happy to go back to any specific slide that anybody has questions on, any slide or that people want to have deeper conversations or discussions about. Let me know.
Thank you, Ryan. And this is Liz. I see at least one hand coming up for now, and Bill, go ahead.
Yes, Ryan, I was at one point in time a few months ago, you had mentioned that CARB was going to give you a list of some of the trucking companies that are located inside the our area, and you had said maybe then some of that money could be devoted to funding of some of the zero emission, or I'm wondering if even there's any consideration to giving money towards near zero emission trucks where it's limited on some of the applications that are available at this point with electric or hydrogen. So I think it could be helpful to start converting at least as near zero emission trucks where the application is not suitable for either zero emission for the electric or for the hydrogen. I was just checking to see if there's any more consideration towards that now that the first year of compliance for public fleets as well as high priority fleets now is in its first year, and each year afterwards from here on out, trucking companies are going to have to start transitioning more of their trucks into the program. But what I'm seeing is some of the applications are of, right now it's limited, like maybe only 3-axle tractors might be available or something, but there could be applications that work within the area, perhaps, that use power takeoff units or something of that nature that would, or maybe a truck chassis where they're not readily available at this point in time in the zero emission configuration, but with the near zero application, maybe some of those trucks could be switched over and we could start saving some pollution in our immediate 617 area. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, that's a good question. And we did work to put together a list of the companies within the boundary. I was discussing about, the possibility, what we're looking to do is bring back some, potential options at the next meeting, understanding some more of that information. So we'll definitely look at that. We're reaching out to companies to try to understand, especially with the changes to some of those guidelines that I talked about, how maybe some of this funding can be shifted or reallocated. So that's definitely something we'll keep in mind.
Yeah, feel free to have someone call me and I could maybe give them a few specific ideas. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we'll have someone reach out. Thanks,
Thanks.
Bill. Anybody else? Maybe specifically on the topic of some of the proposed reallocations. Is that while we're not asking for a vote on any of this, but we just wanted some feedback. I mean, is this moving money from charbroilers to see more urban greening happen within the South Central community, and then also the looking to put more money towards residential vehicle replacement and pulling that from public fleet vehicles. Now, that being said, there'll still be $1.6 million left. We're still working with a lot of people on this, and the budgeting season for a lot of these entities is starting within the next couple months, and so we'll really have a good idea, in the next couple months, how people may be able to use this funding, especially some of those things like the Fresno EOC that several CSC members had raised as an opportunity. And yeah, I see Greg has raised his hand.
Ryan, you just hit it. I was going to say some of that public fleet, because I know that that's the money that's limited to so many vehicles per year, but opening it up to the nonprofits and the charter schools who have bus operations or need bus operations within the footprint, I think would be unique. It's tough for us at 6 at a time at 20 grand a pop. That's kind of tough. So, but I think for an EOC and some of the charters, it really could make a big difference, and they travel just as much as we do.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's a good one. We will, while we're having that conversation with the charter schools about the air filtration, we will be sure to ask them about to talk with their fleet manager and see what opportunities may exist for transitioning some of those some of the vehicles that they use. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, man.
Thank you. And this is Liz. I just see one question in the chat, Ryan, from Eric, that I'll read out loud. So you mentioned total number of SERP commitments that are implemented and complete, but then you said some commitments are under contract, but complete isn't definitive. So what is the outstanding financial commitments in pending contracts now?
Yeah, good question, Eric. And so a good example of this, it would be like the city of, or not the city, but Fresno Unified School District. They have a contract for, I believe it's 6 electric school buses. They're under contract with us. They have, we've set aside the funding for them to purchase that. they're just waiting on delivery, for those buses. And so we say it's complete in terms of we've done all the paperwork, and it's basically will be complete once the buses are delivered. But in all intents and purposes, from our point of view, there's not more work that needs to be done on anybody's part other than just having the equipment delivered. And so that's the most common type of situation that we're talking about. Or, for example, Tree Fresno, they've outlined specific projects that they're going to be doing, for example, for vegetative barriers. And they, have worked with the city on some of these projects. And so it's just a matter of, when they put that into the ground, that's when that will be completed. But the contract itself is done. All the necessary subcontracting that needs to be done is done. It's just the in some cases the project itself needs to be done. Does that answer your question, Eric, or you want me to, or is there something else?
This is Liz. It looks like Eric put a follow-up question in the chat. What is the total number? And Eric, do you mean the total number of projects that are kind of in that complete but not implemented phase? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, the best thing to do, Eric, is that Nancy dropped in a link, and we can break it down better in an email too to everybody if that makes it easier. But the SERP tracker itself, goes through all the details for each of the individual measures and where it's at. But we can also put it specifically in an email to everybody.
Thank you. And this is Liz. Eric, let us know if you have any follow-up questions. And I saw a thumbs up from Kimberly, I think, in response to getting that email with some of those simplified numbers. So we'll have that as an action item.
Yep.
And I see one hand up from a phone number with the area code 805. Could you let us know your name?
Hello. Hello, it's
Oh.
Ivanka.
Hi, Ivanka.
Hi, everyone. I had one question. Do we know if we were to reallocate for more vehicles, electric vehicles within the boundary, what would that actually, how many would it actually account for with the amount of funding that we would reallocate from the char boilers?
Yeah, good question. I will try to do the math in my head, but it's basically we assume $20,000 at minimum, or let me do the math real quick. Whoa, okay, thought that was me for a second. So with an additional $3 million, that's roughly at minimum, we would expect to see 150 cars being replaced. That being said, that's only if people go with the new option. There's the used option, and there's a lot of there's a lesser amount that you get for that. But at the same time, if the used option also has things like PG&E offers up to $4,500 extra, so there's a lot of things that you can stack the funding amounts, so you can also get a really good amount for a used vehicle. So at minimum it would be 150, but more likely it would be probably quite a few more than that, because we typically see people do select the used option pretty frequently.
This is Liz. Ivanka, do you have any follow-up questions to that, or did that answer your question?
That answered it. Thank you. Thank you. That was all.
Thank you. And I see another hand up from Dr. Curry.
Yeah, thank you. My question has to do with the school filtration.
Uh-huh.
and whether or not I know that I'd asked before about portables and whether or not those were included. I'd also just like to know if what other school districts were included in that outreach. So did we also look at Washington Union School District and West Fresno School District in addition to the charter schools that you've talked about?
Yeah, so the school districts that we outreached to were Central Unified, um, w- um, I'm blanking on the Washington Union, um, Fresno Unified, Orange Center. Those were all ones that we outreached to. Um, in regards to your second question was in regards to portables. Yes, that all of those qualified. Fresno Unified, I know for a fact has used the funding to put some of these air filtration devices in portable units.
And as far as we know, do parents get do parents get notified, or do they have information that says that, you know, their child's classroom is recently updated or their school has provided this new level of service? Is that something that parents get notified of?
You know, I'm unsure, Dr. Curry. We can definitely ask. I know that when we go out and we do the outreach at so many of these schools, we're sharing information with the schools to give to students to take home about the residential air filtration to make sure that they know that that program exists and is available to all of them to hopefully get an air purifier in their homes. But I am unsure whether or not we have worked with the school districts to make sure that the parents know that the schools themselves have purchased and installed those devices and are using them.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
I will.
are we routinely like just checking the air quality in classrooms? I'm thinking of young people who have asthma, and as we go into this transitional season and we start to see people getting sick, whether or not we've done any measurements on uh, internal air quality, whether or not we could make the case for an improved air quality in these classrooms based on the fact that these air filtration units have been added. So I'd just like to know whether or not we're monitoring any internal air quality anyway. But I think that for parents, that would also be very helpful.
Yeah. Um, I know we're not doing it in South Central Fresno. I know there are some studies that are looking at that right now, you know, across the state that are looking at that. And, you know, I definitely think that information is going to be very helpful. I definitely believe, hopefully, we're going to see some trends in terms of asthma attacks and better health outcomes as schools are using these more, especially during you know, wildfire events and, you know, other events that are leading to increased air pollution.
Yeah, my last question is about how we talked early on about land use and the concerns that many community members have. And so whether or not any of this additional funding or this funding that it currently exists could be utilized to pursue something along the lines of figuring out how to attack the land use decision-making process, or to add some additional safeguards and guidelines and guardrails for community members not to be always at the tail end of hearing about land use decisions, but also to be more proactive. And I'm not certain what that looks like, but that's been a major concern, and
Yeah.
it hasn't changed in the last 5 years. And so even as the truck rerouting study is working its way, whether or not there were any directives for updating or doing anything different with that. So before the money is reallocated, I'd really want to have some additional information about land use options and whether or not there's anything that could be added to the truck rerouting study.
Okay. You know, just a couple of things. I understand the frustration. I'm not being dismissive of that at all. I think there are things that are happening though as a direct result of this. That some of the communications and I appreciate the city of Fresno has created mailing lists now that people can sign up for and get emails directed to them of all new projects that are um, land use projects that are being considered or in development, and whenever those are getting noticed, that those are being sent out, and hopefully that gets utilized more and more by people that have the potential to be impacted by projects. I find it very very useful, the emails, and I know there's also phone numbers on there for primarily Spanish speaking individuals to reach out and contact. So if they have any questions, that they can also discuss them and share them with the city of Fresno. So I think that is a big change that has happened because of this process. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying it's progress. And one of the things that we always want to look for is progress. There's also some new things that are happening that happened at the state level. There was a state law that was passed, AB 98, that deals directly with warehouses, and a lot of what the impacts of that are going to have to or are going to be, or we're still waiting to see. But that has a lot of potential for requiring a lot of communication about future projects. And so some of the things that you're talking about, Dr. Curry, may happen as a result of that specific piece of legislation. So I think with not only with the AB 617 process, but just things that are going on all over the state, the country, the world, looking at these things more closely, and wanting to have conversations about projects, and how land use impacts people living in areas, and what things should be considered or required for those types of projects.
Thank you, Ryan. And this is Liz. I was just pausing to see, Dr. Curry, if you had any follow-up question to that.
No, I really don't. Thank you for the response. If the outcome of is the same, then whether or not people are notified or contacted or emailed, it really doesn't change the outcome that much. So thank you for the response.
Thank you. And we can go to Kimberly next.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you for that presentation. I just have a couple of questions in regards to the EV vehicles. Do you know the 20,000 is actually for a down payment for them to be able to put down on a used or a new vehicle, correct?
So what we work through Valley Clean Air now, Valley
Mhm.
Can, and they work with them, and they help them. Yes, depending on the cost of the vehicle, it's just put towards the overall cost of it.
Because I know that Central California Asthma Collaborative, the nonprofit that I work with, we also have an EV program, and it's
Mhm.
kind of similar to Valley Can. That's just the acronym that I use instead of saying the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we would work with these residents to get them in, but we also build relationships with dealerships. So is there any relationships built with dealerships so when we start sending residents out to be able to purchase a used or a new EV vehicle, that this is not the first time they're hearing about this, because that was some problems that we ran into as we built our program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. So Valley Can does have we have a listing of contracted dealerships that we typically work with, and that they make it a very smooth process. And we're always adding new dealerships as well. So I mean, if there's a certain dealership in a certain area that isn't, they could always potentially be added.
In purchasing a used EV vehicle, are there any incentives that Valley Can are offering residents in case for any type of repair, electrical repairs with the used vehicles?
Ooh, yeah. No, I'll be honest with you. There's like, we do not have a program to offer funding for repairs to EVs.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's my understanding that a lot of the even the used vehicles, they have a limited warranty, for the vehicle once it's purchased, and so people do have that when they drive it off the lot. Um, but yeah, outside of that, there isn't anything that I'm aware of.
Some of the things that I have heard from residents is about that's one of the main concerns because when you're dealing with a electric vehicle, anything can happen, and sometimes some things are not covered under a lifetime warranty first. Second is sometimes the monthly payment is beyond what they were expecting to pay. And thirdly, the infrastructure to be able to charge it, even though they may be getting an incentive from PG&E, that may be out of their budget. So having infrastructure around to be able to charge it and not being charged for a fast or a rapid charge when they're charging their vehicles at these places that have it. So those are some of the concerns. I just wanted to bring it out on the table and list those concerns that I'm hearing from residents because we do the same thing.
Yeah. Now, Kim, are those residents that are considering it, or are those residents, or maybe not residents, but are those people that have gone and used the program, or the people, like the concerns of people that are, considering using the program but haven't
It's a
actually done?
mixture of both.
Okay.
Because we get all the paperwork and we get them qualified, and then when they get to the dealership, they're turned away. So it's a mixture of both. Just with network of residents that we work with that call to qualify for the program, and then a lot of referrals from our employees. I've had family members who tried to receive one and were turned away. So just to throw out there that might be something to take in consideration. Maybe having dealerships have a set amount of electric vehicles just for that program. And maybe they are all used, they're not all brand new. Maybe that might be a better way to start transitioning from fuel cars to EV vehicles. But just raising some of the concerns that I hear from residents and family members about their concerns of transitioning to an EV.
Yeah. No, and this is and I appreciate the work that you guys are doing at CCAC, Central California Asthma Collaborative, Kim, in helping people. I know that is definitely also something that Valley Can spends a lot of time. So there's at the events that my understanding is they walk through people, through all these different scenarios, and help them look at energy costs and things of that nature, and try to find the vehicle that will work best for them and their specific circumstances. And I see supervising air quality specialist Sarah Hassan. If I ever say if I'm incorrect in anything, please interrupt me and tell me I'm wrong.
Some things that I have seen, for instance, this past June, we were all at the Juneteenth event. So we were set up with our infrastructure on we had a model of a charger that you can use. I believe it was a level 2 charger. We had a lot of paperwork that explains our program, and we had a frequently asked question. But when we went to Valley Can came to our table, they didn't have as much information as we did. So we did get a lot of people coming to our table, and we were able to walk them through. So I don't know if that's necessarily true because I did not witness that. So they may have to do a better job with their outreaching and walking residents through. But we can have an offline conversation about this because we can go back and forth. And I want to respect all the CSC members' time if they may have questions about the presentation. I just wanted to throw it out there of some of the things that I have been hearing and ask those questions. Thank you, Ryan. And you're on
Ryan,
mute.
No, apologies. No, that's good feedback, Kim, and that's definitely something that Sarah can take back and share with Valley Can, and make sure that they do have all the information that they need, and to be able to fully answer anybody's questions.
Because they actually had asked us to share their flyers about their program, but we're out there promoting our program, which we're not like, in the world today of teenagers haters. We did have their flyers on our table, but it was just, like talk about your program.
Yeah.
Have more information and resources and walk them through, like how we're walking our residents through, or people who are visiting our table at the event.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were a lot of questions about EVs and how to get into one. So just we can work together. We don't have to be apart. This can be a partnership, and I'm quite sure that it might be welcomed. This is not my wheelhouse, but it is my wheelhouse because I do help all of our programs in our office. So just wanted to, just throw that out there, but be more to have an offline conversation about this.
All right, sounds good. We'll definitely touch base. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Yeah, really great feedback. Thank you for sharing. And I see another hand up from Natalie.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Just a couple of questions and kind of follow-ups on what everybody else has kind of shared. I was just curious with the vehicle replacement program, how many EV vehicles have been purchased? And I do kind of second what Kimberly was saying, just because I know that some folks did say that, they were provided money for the down payment, but I think the struggle is being able to pay those monthly payments. So I wonder if there's potential to increase the amount of money folks get or figure out, a way to support them. I think in this process of acquiring an EV vehicle. And I think another thing I did want to bring up, if there's potential to have like an in-person meeting, kind of like what we did, I think back in June or May, where we talked about reallocating money, I think for locomotives to the lawn equipment replacement program. Just because I feel like, we're at these 5 years and we're trying to wrap up these SERPs, but I think, having folks in person and engaged, I think would be really important as we kind of talk about where to kind of shift all these different funding sources to. And I think just another thing too, I know that, Dr. Curry mentioned, funding something related to like land use, and I second that. And I know that's something that we had asked for, I think in the last couple of months, was like revamping like the land use subcommittee, but I was just wondering if that would be possible, because I think maybe with that subcommittee we could figure out like if we would want to reallocate money to support land use, any land use measure, like how we could do so. Those are just my comments.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, we were definitely looking, kind of with the transition, having some of those more in person.
Thank you, Natalie. And I think I heard a couple questions in there, and maybe we can have those as action items. Was one of those questions how many electric vehicles have been given out so far, and then a question about whether the amount given for those monthly payments could be increased.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So right now, I don't have the exact number, but the full 1.6 million has been contracted. So kind of using that same math, that's roughly at minimum 80 vehicles, if not more. And then in terms of, what was the second part, Liz?
Yes, whether the amount given to
Oh, yeah.
individuals could be increased.
Yeah, that's probably more I mean, even at the 20,000, because here's another thing, when you're talking about a new vehicle, a lot of the vehicles qualify for, something like, $7,500 federal tax credit. And before, historically, it was dependent on that you paid that level of tax. But as of January 1st, that changed. And so, pretty much if you make under, as a family or as a tax filer, I think it's something like $300,000, you could potentially get that dollar amount off the top. So you're already talking about roughly, somewhere almost about, $27,000 that you can get for a vehicle. So I don't think we can create a program where a car is going to be completely free. I think it's always, especially when you're, considering a new car. But, if you're talking about, between 20 and almost $28,000 for a vehicle, most of the people are already, kind of in the process or looking for a vehicle. And, so this, works out and benefits them that way too.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. This is Liz. That was definitely a lot of information and a lot of really great questions. I'm sure folks still have more thoughts coming up, and we do have a little bit more time for this agenda item. So I just want to give another opportunity to the group to see if there are any other questions or comments coming up. Any lingering questions you feel you need answered before being asked to make any of these reallocation decisions that Ryan has proposed? Oh,
I should probably point out something too. This isn't the entirety of the funds. I mean, there's still more funds, like I was showing up above in the presentation. There's even outside of these proposed shifts, there's still more funding that we can consider for shifting around and moving it. But this just made sense because it's for example, the char broilers, we know we're not going to spend that. And, there is a good opportunity in working with Tree Fresno and the subcontractors that they've been also working with to do a lot of that good work and receive those benefits in terms of reducing temperature in the community, as well as mitigating particulate exposure to people and in helping to clean the air that way. And then, the vehicle replacement, once again, it was just kind of moving it from vehicles to vehicles, but, allowing, some of that funding into a program where we're seeing more demand. But did anybody have any questions about, the kind of where we're at with residential lawn, commercial lawn? I think we're easily going to be able to spend that money. We're going to work with school air filtration and see what those needs are. If after we've exhausted every opportunity, there's still funding there. That may still be an opportunity to discuss on, how maybe those funds can be used. In addition to, the remaining money for locomotives and rail car movers and switchers.
This is Amy. Ryan, I'm not seeing any questions.
Okay. And then maybe just like on the transition, I know Natalie, you provided us, good feedback that you'd like to see some of those meetings be more in person since we would be having fewer of them. Does anybody else have any questions on kind of what we're proposing for year 6 of the Community Mission Reduction Program implementation in South Central Fresno?
As people are thinking about that question, Ryan, I wonder if you can go back to the slide that has the overview. Yeah, that one. Thank you.
Makes me feel good. Makes me feel like I did a good job of explaining it and there's no questions. But if anybody does have any questions afterwards and maybe you don't feel comfortable bringing it up here, maybe you just want to talk to us directly, by all means, reach out and, we're happy to speak with everybody. Oh, I see Ivanka raise your hand.
Go ahead, Ivanka.
Thanks for the presentation, Ryan, and the proposals, but I think either you said you didn't want to dismiss Dr. Curry. I heard Natalie say, why can't we have more conversations regarding land use? So there were 2 comments made about land use, which I agree. And don't take the quietness of the committee right now that it just means everybody's in agreement with what you have proposed, when we're stating and not being heard that as an action item, we would like to revisit land use issues. And what could that mean? It's like we're not having the conversation right now of how we could possibly use funding towards measures that could be a benefit to land use issues. But we have just said clearly that should be an action item to come. So I'm stating it again, just repeating what my colleagues have said, that is something that we possibly would want to see some of this funding reallocated to. Not that we're saying that what you just recommended isn't a good way to look at it, but I just don't want it to be like, okay, that was, nobody said anything, so we're good. And I don't want to skirt around the fact that this is what we've asked for, is to have that steering subcommittee come back together. Thank you.
Yeah, and I maybe I should have been more clear in what I was saying. The only thing I was talking about, it was just in regards to like the transitional meetings. It definitely wasn't. We definitely heard the discussion about land use committee meetings. The thing that we've talked about in terms of that is, we're open to, provided we're able that it's a meeting that that we have support from the city of Fresno. And one of the things that we've heard from the city of Fresno is that when it comes to land use, they've developed their own processes and that they need to use those processes. And so we always want to be mindful and respect that as well. And so, we can, continue to discuss that. I know that was raised when we were talking about the truck reroute study too, and kind of what that looked like moving forward in implementation of the truck reroute, and wanting to have those. And I apologize. I feel like I'm at the beginning of COVID. I have puppies, and they are unhappy with me. So I apologize for any barking that you hear in the background. I like to be more professional than that, but I had some awkward circumstances today. But yeah, so yeah, we definitely wrote that down, Ivanka, and we'll continue to communicate with the city of Fresno on what that can look like.
Thank you. This is Liz, and we'll have that noted as an action item for follow-up. And I see one question that just came up in the chat. Has the has the agency hired a chief environmental justice officer?
Yeah, Eric, we've talked about this in the past, and in terms of the person serving in that role is me.
Thank you, Ryan. I do remember now that question coming up. And I also see a hand from Bill. Go ahead.
Yes, on the transitional meetings, I was curious if we did every other one in person, if that would be a consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Oh, I do see a question in the chat. Can we reallocate CERT funding for, I think, a chief environmental justice officer like other air districts?
Yeah, so when it comes to implementation dollars or incentive dollars, that's not something that would be used for. And once again, when it comes to those things, Eric, and I meet with all the people at those other air districts, I'm doing that the responsibilities that they have assumed, those are the responsibilities that I am responsible for. So we don't have a need to hire that position because I'm doing the things that those people are responsible for.
This is Liz, and thank you for the follow-up question and adding that clarification to Ryan. I'm just pausing again to see if there are any last-minute questions coming up or other comments before we transition to our standing updates. Yeah. And before we transition, I'll just read aloud a follow-up comment from Eric that came in the chat. Environmental justice is challenging for the organization, and an officer would help. Definitely noting that. Anything else coming up for folks? I know this was a pretty heavy presentation and discussion. If not, as usual, and as Ryan mentioned, if anything comes up, feel free to give Ryan and his team a call or an email and share anything. At this time, I am happy to transition us to our standing updates, and I believe Amy is going to take us through those.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, committee, for all the questions and recommendations that you had during this discussion. For standing updates today, we have a list of folks that are here today to provide you all with some current updates. As folks are providing updates, if other organizations have updates that you would like to share, please do raise your hand or put your updates in the chat, and we'll be sure to read them aloud. So with that said, we'd love to start with some general updates from the Air District. So at this time, I'm going to pass it to Anna Stone from the Air District. Anna, are you there?
Sí, aquí estoy. Buenas tardes, estoy aquí para dar la actualización
Yes,
del
I'm here. Good
distrito del
afternoon. I'm here to
IAI.
give the Air
Nos
District
complace,
update. We are pleased.
nos complace anunciar que
We're
el
pleased to
próximo
announce
evento de
that
Tune In
the
Tune Up,
next
que es
Tune In
donde
Tune
dan
Up
los vales de
event, that
reparación
is
de
where you get
vehículos en Fresno, será el
the
23
repair
de
vehicle.
noviembre, pero también vamos a tener un
It's going to
evento
be
de
November
intercambio de
23rd, but we're also
cortacéspedes en
going to
ese
have
mismo
an
evento.
exchange
Para
lawnmowers
los residentes que
event on the
viven
same
dentro de
event for
ese
residents who
límite
are
AB
part of that
617 en
AB
Fresno.
617 boundary in
Vamos a
Fresno.
colaborar con
We're going to
Valley
cooperate with
ambos eventos
Valleycan, and
comenzarán a
both
las 8 de
events
la
will start
mañana
at
y
8 a.m.
terminarán
and it will
a
finish
mediodía
at
en los
noon
terrenos de la Feria de Fresno.
in the
A
Fresno
los residentes que
Fairland.
califican y
The residents that
quisieran
qualify
participar
for
en
it
el
and they would
evento de
like to
intercambio de
participate in the
cortacéspedes deben de
lawnmower
reservar su
exchange
lugar para un nuevo cortacésped
process, you
eléctrico
should
llamando al
reserve your place
559
calling out 559
500 0246 y déjenme
500
compartir mi
and let me
pantalla para
share my
compartir
screen
el
so I
folleto y
can
estos
share the
folletos se van
flyer
a
with
dar,
you. And
los
this
vamos a
flyer,
mandar después de
we're going
esta
to send
junta
them after
para que
this
lo puedan
meeting,
compartir con
so
sus
you can
familiares
share that
y
with family
ayudarnos
members and you can
¿cómo? A
help
anunciar este
us
evento, pues.
to
So, aquí está
disseminate this
el
event.
folleto para el intercambio de
This is the flyer
cortacéspedes y es
for
el
the
mismo,
lawnmower
estos
exchange.
eventos se dan cuando hacemos los
And
eventos de
these
Tune In,
events,
Tune Up.
we have them
So,
when
van
we
a
have
ver
the Tune In,
esos,
Tune Up events.
también ahí va a estar la opción
So
de cambiar su cortacésped
there's
en ese
also going to
mismo
be the
evento,
option
¿ok?
to change
Pero
your
estos se van a
lawnmower at that
compartir
same
el
event.
día de,
And these are going
después de
to
esta
be
junta.
shared after this meeting. We'll share
También
the flyers
otros
with you.
de los anuncios que tenemos es de
Another
que
announcement
la
that we
campaña de
have
regreso
is that
a clase
the
se va a
back to
completar
school
este mes
campaigns,
de
it's
octubre.
going to be completed this
Estaremos en la
month
escuela
during October.
primaria
We're going to be
Valderas
at
la
the
próxima
Valderas
semana para
Elementary
compartir
School next
paquetes
week
con los
to
padres
share packages with
sobre la información de
parents
calidad del aire,
about
los
air
recursos que
quality
ofrecemos
information, the
también para
resources that we offer
las subvisiones que
for
ofrece el Distrito del Aire. Y
the
vamos a estar ahí en la
grants that the Air
mañana
District
a la hora
is
de la
offering.
entrada de la
We're
escuela
going to be there in the morning
repartiendo esos
when
paquetes
they and go
y
to
como
enter
parte de nuestra
school,
campaña de
sharing
escuelas
these
también
packages. And
estos
as part of these
paquetes tienen
school
una
packages,
encuesta
uh,
sobre la
these
calidad del
packages
aire
have a
y hasta ahora hemos
survey on air
recibido
quality. And so far,
180
we
respuestas
haven't
en todo el
received
valle.
180 responses
So, ahí nos dejan
from
saber
the
si tienen
valley.
alguna
So let us
pregunta de lo
know if you
que
have any
actualicé
questions of what
o
I
si no
just
se lo paso para
updated,
atrás a Nancy.
or otherwise I will pass it back to Nancy.
Okay, muchas gracias, Nancy. Te lo paso para
Okay,
atrás.
thank you very much, Nancy. I'll send it back to you.
Gracias, Ana. This is Amy. I think the Air District also has another update. So I see Ryan is back on camera. So Ryan, I think you were going to go over clean air rooms updates. You're on mute.
Yep, I'm just pulling up the presentation right now.
While you're doing that, Ana, can you please put the phone number in the chat where community members can call you? So I see that Roberta asked if you can put that number in the chat.
All right, so I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier and just wanted to give everybody an update on where we're at with the Clean Airs Rooms program. And this is the program where people are able to sign up and receive uh, an air purifier for their homes. And we heard from the steering committee that there's a significant need for this. There's a lot of health benefits from people taking these and using them in their homes.
Excuse me, every single day.
So just want to kind of go over some numbers with where we're at. Since we opened this program up a little more than almost 2 years ago. So we allocated $1 million towards this. We have spent $422,369 for 2,169 units. And we currently still have $577,631, which based on the price of them, it's about 2,800, a little more than 2,800 units left. And so kind of understanding those timelines of that we're trying to expend this and get these devices out to people, we feel like it's an important conversation to have with all of you. So we've worked extensively with all of you, with other community-based organizations to conduct outreach and plan and attend events to sign residents up for the program. We've also done a lot of social media to make people aware of the program and the opportunity that it provides. And to date, we've attended 46 in-person events where we actually take out the air purifiers themselves. We take out tablets that we use to help people sign up. So we're doing a lot of that groundwork to try to get people to sign up and take advantage of this program. We also did a lot of events where we actually took out the air purifiers themselves and gave them directly to them. So it's been a huge effort to try to get the $1 million spent. Here's kind of like the timelines of where we've been in opening up the program and spending the funds. I said 2 years. I was wrong. It was off by a year. I apologize. But in the beginning, we saw a lot of interest, and it kind of coincided with some of the wildfires that we were seeing. And as you can see, though, over the last few months, we're starting to unfortunately see the numbers diving off quite a bit. Even though we, in a lot of cases, we've increased the amount of outreach that we're doing, including in-person events. But it's just the ongoing need of just trying to make people aware of this program. It's been successful. We've gotten almost half the I apologize. 1 second. Yeah. So we're still trying to make sure that we get this funding spent in the community and meeting the goal of improving the indoor air quality. So we were wanting to propose expanding the program to reach more residents within the boundary. And so what that would look like would be, kind of following in line with what we've heard from all of you in like the types of people that we're looking to protect through this program, but expanding it to daycares, childcare centers, senior living centers, nursing homes, and additional spaces that serve sensitive receptors. And with the existing guidelines that CARB had updated, this is an allowed use of these funds. And so we're excited for that change and that it opens it up. And that I think it's another good way to help spend these funds. These would provide funding for commercial sized units, so bigger than the ones that you'd use in your home. Covers a lot more square footage with these types of devices. And it'd provide up to 25% of funding. We'd up to 25% of the funding will be allocated to this effort. So roughly 250,000 if that's something that the committee would be supportive of. And similar to what we've done whenever we've looked at these types of things, we'd always bring back updates to all of you. This isn't going to stop any of the work that we're doing in trying to spend all the funding for the residential in-home purifiers. But this is just another option to help protect people, especially the most sensitive. So when I mentioned the events, like here's just a map, and I always think it's helpful and seeing all the different places. So this map right here shows the locations where these could be taken advantage of, and so as you can see, there's a lot of them. So that was the update for that, and I don't know if anybody have any thoughts, concerns. of kind of what's being proposed.
This is Amy. Ryan, are you looking for feedback on other locations at this time?
It's not so much on the locations as it is on the, let me go back to the slide. So it's really in regards to the types of facilities and looking to, put kind of, focusing some of that funds on these things. So the daycares, child care centers, senior living centers, nursing homes. So right now, the way that the residential measure is written, it would only apply to residences. And so by having this conversation and hearing the feedback from the steering committee is whether or not there's interest in looking at something like this. If they see that this is a good use of moving some of the funds and or opening it up to, maybe not shifting, but opening up the funds to these things, with the mindset, let's, put a cap on it at only $250,000.
This is Amy. So the committee this is the first time we're hearing of this update. So if you
Yeah.
have questions, comments, recommendations about the district's plans to expand the clean air program to include daycares, child care centers, senior living centers, etc., now would be the time to share your thoughts and insights. I see Bill, my gosh, has raised his hand. Go ahead, Bill.
It sounds like a good idea to me, as long as these people, are from the AB 617 area. I think that it sounds like a good opportunity to help them with the air problems.
Thanks, Bill. Oh, sorry, Amy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Bill, this funding would only be used to provide funding for daycares, childcare centers, senior living centers, nursing homes within the boundary. We wouldn't provide funding outside the boundary.
And this is Sarah with the Ear District. I just wanted to say that this is only 25% of the funding, so there will be opportunities for residents to still apply for the program and get purifiers as well, as the senior living centers or the child care centers to apply for their purifiers. So it's nice that, part of the money is being allocated, but not all of it. So there's still opportunity for residents to apply for purifiers if they would like them.
This is Amy. Thank you, Sarah, for clarifying that. Kimberly, I see your notes are, I don't know if it's you or your AI taking notes, but I don't know if maybe you can't hear us, but we're still talking. Maybe Kimberly can't hear us. And Kimberly, I see you came off mute, but I can't hear you if you're talking. Can others hear Kimberly? No. Still can't hear you, Kimberly. This is Amy. I think Kimberly is having technical difficulties. Yes, because we are still in the meeting and we can't hear you. So if you have, I don't know if you want to call back in or work on those audio issues. We will be, per usual, sending out all of the materials that were discussed today via email. So if anyone has more questions or reactions to the content and the updates that were shared, please feel free to send those questions. At this time, I'm seeing that Natalie has her hand raised. Go ahead, Natalie.
Yeah, I just have just a quick question about the the in-home filtration purifiers. For folks that whose air filters are dirty, or they have to change them out within every 3 to 6 months. Does the air district have a specific place where folks can order them, or they can go in person to purchase these filters to replace the old filters already? Because some folks have had them running for a while and just need to replace the filter that's inside the purifier.
Yeah, hi Natalie, it's Sarah with the Air District. So we do provide 1 year of air filters with the purifier, and we are going to get ready to send out a coupon code for those residents who have gotten an air purifier within the last 2 years, and that would provide residents with 20% off of an air filter replacement. It's either a 1 pack or a 2 pack, and you can use that coupon code up to 3 times per resident. And that is through the Medify website. Medify is the manufacturer of the air purifier that we have been sending out. We have been talking to residents, and they say that they can find it on Amazon as well, and in Walmart stores too. So we don't have a specific, recommended vendor to purify to get your air filter replacements. But we will be sending out that coupon code soon. So if residents do want 20% off, they can take advantage of that.
Cool. Thank you for that information. And when that's ready, will that be sent out to the CSC just so that we could share with folks?
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Sarah, for clarifying the updates. Great. So at this time, I'm going to transition and invite Carb. I see Jennifer's here. Jennifer, if you want to share any updates from Carb at this time, it'd be great.
Great. Thank you. This is Jennifer. Just wanted to bring up some reminders of some upcoming deadlines. This Friday, there is an EJAC meeting happening in person and also via Zoom. Also, the Community Air Grant Cycle 5 has been opened, and the application period is closing on November 1st. So be sure you review those and get your applications in if you're interested. And just lastly, the AB 617 Community Air Protection Consultation Group is also accepting applications, and you need to apply by November 15th. And I will go ahead and place those links and information in the chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And just want to make a special shout out if folks are interested in being part of that AB 617 consultation group. Highly recommend that folks sign up and be part of that process. Great. At this time, I'd like to invite City of Fresno.
Hi, Gregory Barfield.
Yes,
Gregory Barfield here tonight. I'm sure you were searching your screen. Just wanted to report on behalf of my public works colleagues that we thank you all for coming down on September 12th for the council hearing and hearing the council workshop and hearing that discussion. As you may know, that the council took those recommendations and we've now decided not to move forward with the 10/31 date. But they're organizing around a date in the future. And so we will let everyone know prior to that. The workshop materials that were presented on 9/12 are still online, either under the truck study or at the clerk's office. And we appreciate the update that the Air Board had given earlier, because that kind of succinctly covered everything. Outside of we won't be going forward on the 31st. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Greg. Any comments or questions at this time? Yes, Natalie, go ahead.
Hey, I just have just a couple clarifications. I know that the agreement between the consultants and UC Merced was extended to December 31st for the Trophy Road study, based off the 26th City Council hearing. But I was just wondering, I know that one of the asks for the CSC was, to have more of like collaborative sessions with the city of Fresno. So I'm just curious, like in the upcoming, during the upcoming months, like if the city of Fresno can, like when they plan to like come back and talk to us and just kind of like make sure that, the truck reroute study really does reflect like what we've highlighted as the CSC, just because so much of the funding did come from CARB and the Valley Air District. But I was just wondering, what are the city's commitments to come back to the CSC and really focus on workshopping, like what, the ideal truck reroute study would be for folks on the CSC.
Hey, Natalie, thank you for that. What I was getting from Scott Mosier late this afternoon, the city manager, is they are in discussions, I guess, now that no cost extension has been signed and approved on both sides. They're now trying to figure that out. And they'll be in contact with both the Air Board and the CSC about next steps.
Got it. Thank you. Do you know by any chance when we can expect to hear back from the city? Just because I know that the contract is ending in December. I don't know if there's any intent to push the agreement further past the year, but I just want to make sure that some dates are solidified because December's coming soon, or if that could just be provided as quick as possible to the CSC once the city of Fresno knows.
No, I was gathering from literally, I got the text from the city manager and Scott Mosier right as this meeting was starting that they had just emerged from a meeting, and it sounds like they are feverishly trying to get this together as soon as possible. And you may hear something as early as the next meeting of the CSC, if not earlier.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Appreciate it.
Thank you both, and we'll make sure to note that as an action item just to keep track of it so the community knows that that might be coming in the next meeting. Great. At this time, I'd like to invite any other organization that might have an update about something that's happening within the boundary. Okay, well, I will interpret the silence as no other updates at this time. So with that said, I'd like to transition us to wrapping up and discussing some next steps. So before we go to our logistics, I want to talk a little bit about our action items. So as you know, we take notes on the recommendations that you all make, and we try our best to represent what you all share as an action item. So these are definitely in draft form. So if you have any recommendations to changes to the verbiage or we missed an action item, please do let us know so that we can update these action items to best represent what the CSC would like to see. So for our first action item, we have that the Air District will share a list of truck companies operating in the boundary and ones that potentially qualify for CERT funding. Our second action item will be at the Air District to meet with charter schools to discuss their participation in the school air filtration and public fleet vehicle measures. Our third action item is that the CSC would like to revisit land use issues and develop a process. So for example, allocation of funds for land use or revive the land use subcommittee and potentially bring in the city of Fresno to discuss what a plan might look like. Sorry, that was a long one there. And then our fourth action item is that the Air District will update the CSC when ready to send out the 20% off coupon for replacement of air filtrations or air filters. And as noted in our last conversation, the city of Fresno will present an updated community engagement plan to the CSC at an upcoming meeting. Are there any requests or action items that you would like to see added? Gregory, yes.
On the public fleet, it was also adding the non-profits such as EOC that provide public assistance or senior support transportation.
Beautiful, that's right. Thank you for catching that.
No problem.
Any other modifications or additions of action items that we may have not caught or that now you're thinking should be included? Okay, well, thank you, Liz, for sharing your screen. Oh, Natalie, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I was a little late to raise my hand, but I was wondering in the future if we could kind of make space to just talk about like the new microgram standard for the 9 microgram standard for the PM 2.5s, the annual standard. Especially because like we're gonna have to submit like our statewide implementation plan soon, and the valley has been in a non-attainment for like the last 30 years. So I think it's something to bring up that's important to the CSC, given how like a lot of folks here just live with the impacts, of PM 2.5. But if we could just have like a space to talk about like what the statewide implementation plan is and why it's important that we meet like the 9 microgram standard, because I feel like the CSC is also like a huge part of it too. Yeah.
This is Amy. Thank you, Natalie, for that recommendation. We can add that as an action item, and what I'm hearing specifically is that it be added as a potential agenda item for discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yep, we will add that. And if the Air District has more clarifying questions, we'll make sure to ask them to reach out to you directly. And of course, to other folks who are interested in that discussion. Great, so our next meeting is going to be rescheduled. So the schedule will look a little bit different. I'm going to invite my colleague Liz to share a screen that has the date. So our next meeting on Zoom will be held on Wednesday, November 20th at 5:30 p.m. And note that this is on a different Wednesday than it typically is. And this is rescheduled due to a conflict with a 2-day district public meeting that's occurring November 3rd through 14th. So if you all could check your calendars, you should have an updated meeting request that includes the link to our Zoom and a link to being able to join the meeting, and it should now have the correct date. Just want to pause for a second here to make sure that you all make note of the change in date. All right, at this time, I'd like to invite the public. I thought I had seen one public member, but it looks like they may have dropped off. So I'll just open it up to anyone that has any final comments, final public comments, anything that you would like to add before we transition to closing out the meeting. All right, not seeing any more questions or comments at this time. So thank you everyone for participating in the meeting. I do see that many folks have dropped off, so we're recognizing that and seeing that there's significantly less attendance now at the 7:23 time marker than when we started. But we do appreciate your commitment to holding everyone accountable to the implementation of AB 617 in your community. We will be sure to send out all of the next steps and announcements that you heard about today. And you'll hear about progress on these action items at the next meeting. So thank you all for engaging in today's conversation. Have a great evening. Good night.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias a ustedes.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy, did you stop recording?